when they're really passionate.
Good evening. Our program will start with a debate between two other candidates for city attorney besides the ones we had a few months ago. And so we're going to have an opening statement, and we're going to have some questions for them, and then a closing statement, and we're going to all do this in about 15 or 20 minutes. So, without further ado, we're going to have an opening statement by Mr. Smith.
Hi everybody, I'm Greg Smith, running for City Attorney. Nice to be here. I want to tell you that I am the only candidate for City Attorney that was raised in the Valley. I came to the Valley in 1964, and I lived in the Valley until just 2 years ago, where my wife made me move to the West Side. So, sorry. Now, I'm still married. So, I gotta tell you, there's two other main candidates besides Noel. There's Mike Fuhrer and Carmen Jutanich. Mike Fuhrer has never done a trial in his life. He's never been in a courtroom in his life. Mike Fuhrer has no trial experience. So who would you rather have as your attorney if you were going into trial? Mike Fuhrer or somebody like me that's been in trial? Mike Fuhrer passed AB 109. He was one of the voters for AB 109. He dumped 10,000 people, criminals, back on our streets. That's Mike Fuhrer. Mike Fuhrer in this campaign is going negative. He's already done it. You're going to hear a lot of negative stuff from his campaign because he's frightened. Amazing what Photoshop can do. Mike has said that I'm a Republican. I'm not. This is his mailer. I've been a moderate Democrat throughout my entire time. Look, I have been an attorney for 25 years representing law enforcement and fire. Please, I need your support. Thank you.
Hi everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Noel Weiss. Been out and about in the city for doing work on behalf of the little guy for about the last 9 or 10 years. Land use in particular, trying to fight the tough fights. In fact, I have a couple of my clients, my people over there that basically in the Sherman Oaks area. In fact, and Richard, by the way, I must say thank you, Richard, for giving us this opportunity. Since we weren't here the last time, Mr. Fuhrer and Nutris here. But anyway, briefly, I'm a reform guy. Anybody who likes the status quo, I'm not your guy. My belief, City of Los Angeles is a public trust. The municipal corporation is the trustee of that public trust. The people who serve you are public trustees. The city attorney, as the attorney for the corporation, owes a fiduciary duty to the people to make sure that system works. It's not working the way it needs to work. And I ran it, last night I was in an event in Woodland Hills, and one of the older gentlemen that was there had a good question. He said, "Noel, you're critical of the public officials, and yet you want to be one. How do you reconcile those two?" And I said, "You know what, good question. 15 seconds to go. We'll wait till the answer to the end, and if everybody listens, I'll give you the answer at the end. Bottom line is, I want to make the system work for the people. It's not working now, and if elected, and I would ask for you to be elected, bottom line is, we need a reform versus status quo election. Vote for me, vote for Greg if you don't like me. Bottom line is, we need a reform, we need to have a reform versus status quo election, and if you do that, then...
Okay, thank you for the opening. All right, the first question, right, for Mr. Smith. Land use is of great concern to Sherman Oaks residents. What can you do as city attorney to uphold the current laws and stop the pattern of ignoring residents' legitimate concerns and catering to special interests and lobbyists?
Well, first of all, I'm the only candidate that is I'm not being supported by any special interests. A lot of the funding that I've used in this campaign has actually come from my own money. So, actually several $100,000, much to the chagrin of my wife. So, I am open. I plan to have an office that's transparent. I plan to listen to people. I plan to have a presence with the neighborhood councils that is not currently occurring, and I'm open to hear what all the problems are in the valley. Being somebody who grew up and was raised in the valley, I know what your issues are. I understand what the issues are in the valley. So I am much more receptive than any other candidate to listening to what your problems are.
My qualifications on this issue, there was a project over in Sherman Oaks, I stopped it. We had to go to the Court of Appeal fighting the big boy, and I fought them all. I fought Latham and Watkins, I won, I fought Ambrister. The fact is, land use is critical because that's where it's at. There is, and unfortunately, again, the city council, they kind of have a thing where whatever the councilman wants, and these are all good people, okay? I don't want to come off as being critical of the city council as people. They all run for office wanting to do a good job. Problem is something happens. I'm not sure, maybe it's the air conditioning in City Hall. Nobody runs for office saying, well, I'm going to screw things up. But basically what ends up happening is they end up voting for and doing whatever they want, legal or illegal. The city attorney needs to be there for you people to make sure that what happens is lawful and fair and appropriate and proper and consistent with what we say that we are for, which is our core social values. So, and I've got a record in that regard. If I had 50 seconds, I'd tell you more. Thank you.
We're going to be a series of questions on your qualifications to be city attorney. First, the city attorney is an administrator, has a large number of attorneys working for him. Mr. Weiss, what are your qualifications as an administrator of a large law firm?
I've never been an administrator of a large law firm, but I don't think that disqualifies me for the job. The qualifications, this is a leadership position. You're basically working in terms of trying to maintain morale. You are trying to set a policy. I think the key qualification for any leadership position is having a proper balance between ego and imagination. Call it hubris and humility. But the bottom line is when you are leading people, you must be able to have an empathy, an understanding, a competence, a capability. And you know what? I've gotten that by fighting the tough battles down at City Hall. 15 seconds again. Time really flies when we're having a good time. But in any event, my qualifications in terms of listening and accomplishing, I think in terms of what I'm able to accomplish, qualify me for that.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. I did administer a law firm in the 2000s. We had approximately 24 employees. So it's not a large law firm, but I did administer it. I know that Mr. Fuhrer claims that he administered it at Beth Sedek. You have to recall in Beth Sedek when he was there were only 5 or 6 attorneys working at the time. All right? Everybody else was volunteers. So I have some experience in it. Now I want to tell you something. Steve Cooley. Does everybody know that name? Steve Cooley is one of the best prosecutors we ever had in this city. He had absolutely no administrative experience before he became the district attorney. What he had was experience in a courtroom. That's what you need. You need to know when to call the shots. You need to know when to fold them and when to throw them. You need to know about laws and cases, and you only learn that in the trial court.
Thank you. The next quality of a city attorney, the next part of the job is to be counsel to the city council and to the city. What is your experience as far as giving counsel to entities or clients?
Well, I've talked to Mitch Englander over there, but I don't think he really cares what I have to say. But I will tell you this, that I will do everything I can to cooperate with Mitch and with all the city council members. I'm not going into office with a lot of luggage, okay? I can cooperate with them. Now let me tell you, the city attorney's office, under the consent decree, the job of the city attorney is to advise and consent, not make policy. As a city attorney, you have got to get along with the city council members. I will work with each and every one of them. The first thing I'll do in this office is sit down with them individually, find out what their concerns are, talk with them, and work with them effectively. And that's what you need to do.
Except that, you also need a check and a balance. And if you don't have it, then you got a problem. The city council, again, good people, but something happens. And the bottom line is when political interests begin to take over, if the city attorney doesn't check that political influence, then the people are going to lose. The system isn't going to work. The system's going to work for the insiders. I think in terms of working with the council, I have a lot of experience in that regard. One of the things I've been able to accomplish in lobbying the council for tenants in this city, seniors in this city, getting the relocation fees raised. Everybody said it was impossible. I did it. I've been able to get the council to do other things, and admittedly that's policy, but the bottom line is one of the things I would do in my, that I think is important, is to have a deputy city attorney, a prestige position in every council office, so that the councilmen and their constituents can get the direct input from the city attorney's office, and that, can I just, I gotta finish the sentence. Just let me finish the sentence. In terms of getting that ability so that the constituents and the council people can basically work together directly through the city attorney's office so that your problems can get solved at a more direct level. Thank you for letting me finish the sentence.
Yes. And another duty of the city attorney is to be a prosecutor. And what is your experience as far as prosecution? Mr. Weiss?
I've never been a criminal prosecutor, so I can't lay claim to that. What I would do on the management side, however, and I think this is important in terms of saving money and making the system work better, the district attorney prosecutes misdemeanors for about 80 of the cities in the LA County that has about, I think, 87 or 88 cities. What I would do is I would put the prosecution of state penal court crimes in, I would deputize LA city attorneys and working in cooperation with the DA, they would be the issue doing the same thing. They would work to prosecute misdemeanors and felonies collectively better. That would be more efficient for LAPD, it would be more efficient for the city of LA, and it would free up the city attorney's office to be able to prosecute code violations, which is everybody's concern in this city.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
I have 25 years of prosecuting civil claims made by city employees that have complained about corruption. I was the first individual that represented the police sergeant at Bell who reported the massive corruption in the city of Bell. I took his case. I got him his job back. My job is to go into a courtroom and convince a jury when there's been misconduct that it's occurred. With respect to the criminal side, what I intend to do is to set up a system that Tutanich is completely disabled, the neighborhood prosecutor system. I intend to beef that up, make sure that we have deputies in every single division so that we can stop halt crime and lower it.
In addition, the city attorney defends the city in lawsuits. What is your experience in that area?
But nobody's better at beating up the city than me. So I've done probably 30, 40 civil jury trials against the city, and I have never lost an employment case against the city of Los Angeles. So when you decide to pick a lawyer to represent you, who do you want? You want the guy that never loses, or do you want the guy that never wins? I know all the weaknesses of the city attorney's office. The best prosecutors, or rather the best defense lawyers on the criminal side, are prosecutors that go over and change over. I will go in and I know exactly what needs to be done to make changes to the civil side of the city attorney's office. And I promise you, you will not be reading in the newspaper when you wake up that there's been a $24 million verdict against the city of LA. Those will be history.
Thank you.
Pretty convincing, huh? Anyway, I've been a practicing lawyer since 1976. I've defended and prosecuted cases in civil court for decades. I think in terms of making this, again, one of the things I think Mr. Tutanich has made a mistake in is what he calls the so-called porcupine defense. Because basically when you litigate against the city, they throw all of these resources, regardless of any sensitivity, qualitative analysis, and thought, and it ends up being incredibly inefficient, both for the lawyers and the system as well. So in terms of defending the interests of the city, yes, no question. But there's a lot that can be done administratively, ladies and gentlemen, in terms of putting mediation in force, having a circumstance where the claims that are filed have to be done under penalty of perjury. I mean, a tremendous number of possible ways of making this much more efficient that are not being undertaken currently.
The next question is, what changes? Or one change that would make in the city attorney's office?
Oh, great, thank you for that question, because I can speak for me, Mr. Smith will speak for himself, but honestly, we're talking about change versus the status quo. Number one change, I put a city attorney in every single council office, as I just described. Number two, openness and transparency across the board. When the special interests go down and talk to the city attorney, you know what, you don't know about it. If I'm city attorney, you're gonna know about it. You know why? Because it's gonna be run more like a law office, where people have to bill, quote unquote, keep track of their time. The details of it will not be made available to the public, because maybe you'll have attorney-client privilege, but the bottom line is, in terms of making the people know what's going on, okay, 15 seconds. What we're gonna do is we're gonna publish that, put it online, so that you know what special interest is talking to what city attorney. You know what? It'll have a tremendously palliative effect, a positive effect in terms of making the system work better.
Neighborhood prosecutors, that's one of the biggest things. You're going to see that crime is going to be increasing. The type of crime that affects your quality of life. With 10,000 criminals back on our streets, there are going to be more burglaries, there are going to be more auto thefts, there are going to be those types of crimes. We need to stop that. We need to put our prosecutors in the divisions with the police department so that they can effectively stop and eradicate this crime that's going to affect your quality of life. I'm going to do that. There are so many changes that have to be made to that office. I don't have time in the 90 seconds I'm given to tell you. They don't even have the equipment that they need as lawyers. They don't have Elmos to walk into a courtroom. They don't have a color copier anymore. It's been broken for a year. There's a lot of stuff that needs changing, and I'll do it.
Carmen Chutanich was an outsider who was elected as city attorney. What has he done well as city attorney, and what has he not done well?
Carmen Chutanich. Can you see that? That's Carmen Chutanich. That's the LA Times. That's not me. I didn't say that. I am a liar. Carmen Chutanich claimed he was an outsider, but he really wasn't. Here's a little fact that many of you don't know. He actually worked for Rocky Delgadillo as special assistant. He was never an outsider. Carmen used that to get elected into office, but he's never been an outsider. That's all I need to say about that.
Room for improvement for Mr. Jutanich. He needs to apologize to the people of this city, because he made a promise and he violated the promise. And in fact, and I told him, and I told his lovely wife and his son as well, told him, I respectfully suggested that he ought to consider apologizing to you all and saying, you know what, because the people are very forgiving. I made a mistake. This is what I learned from it. But you know what? He can't do it. He can't do it because of his temperament. And the temperament is really, as I said before, a critical component of this office, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a legislative position. This is a management position. He just cannot bring himself, and it's hurting his ability basically to run the office. I think the billboard position when he first came into office was very good. He's kind of backed away on that now. That's one other thing that obviously I would pick up on as a reform candidate.
Thank you. Now, it's time for closing statements. Already. No, Mr. Weiss, you go first.
I go first?
I think I go first.
No.
Because I started first. Oh, it's up to you guys.
Well, we're going to argue about who goes first. We're going to debate that first.
Oh, you want me to go? I'll be happy to go. All right. Anyway, here's the deal. We have an election obviously coming up on March 5th. Many of you probably have already voted. Honestly, what we need, change versus status quo. I think it's better for the system if we do get a change versus status quo election. My pitch to the rest of you is, you know what? I know we're in Mr. Fear's backyard. You can vote for him in the final election. But now I'm asking you to hedge your bets, because we need, if we have that kind of change versus status quo election, I think we'll have a better result out of it. Mr. Jutanich is status quo, Mr. Fear is status quo. Another Sacramento politician, with all due respect, coming down here, where this is not good for Los Angeles. Give yourselves, people, the opportunity to have a good, solid debate. I'm a change guy. I'm asking for your vote because I think I can make the system better. My background, my experience, I think qualifies me basically to be able to do that. If for some reason you like Mr. Smith better, vote for him, but vote for reform, because that's what we need. And you're not going to get it from any of the mayoral candidates in terms of the current politicians. And as I say, in this particular race, Trutanich, Fuhr, are status quo. Please vote for change. In my case, vote for me. Thank you.
I also agree with Noel. You need to vote for reform. You really need to. You need to put somebody in there that's independent. Mike comes from Sacramento. He's a termed out politician. He's already been defeated for running for city attorney office in 2000. Came from city council. He's termed out. He goes up to Sacramento. He's termed out. He's looking for another seat. He's never been in a courtroom. This is not the man that we need. He is not going to make any change in Los Angeles, and he's not going to do anything for the city attorney's office. Trutanich, I don't even need to explain, and you all know. He's been a great disappointment. Somebody I actually supported when he first started in 2009. So you have an option, and I want to say that option is me. I'm the only one coming into this, well, that, with the exception of Noel, that has extensive experience in litigation and in the trial courts. 70% of what the city attorney does involves trials. 70%. You wouldn't have somebody fly your plane if they weren't a pilot. And that's what Mike Fuhrer wants you to do. He wants to let you go in that office and make you believe that he can fly the plane. He cannot fly the plane. It takes decades to learn the art of trial. Decades. And you need somebody that's going to go in there and be a zealous advocate for you. And I promise you, with your support, I will do that. And thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed your dinner, and thanks for listening.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you very much. As you probably have guessed, we did change the timing of the meeting. And because our Councilman Mitchell needs to leave early, so we're going to get him on in about 10 to 15 minutes. So with that, I'd like to have Officer Trent Berry give us an update. And then Marshall Long, why don't you come up? And Alfie, good news for you. You don't have to discuss it because someone from the DWP came over. Okay, update.
Thank you, Richard. Well, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I am Officer Barry. I'm the Senior Lead Officer for the North Sherman Oaks area. I'm the Senior Lead Officer for the North Sherman Oaks area. Just going to give you a quick update about what's going on in the area. Right now, property crime is still our main focus. When I say property crime, once again, I'm talking about vehicles getting broken into and or stolen, petty thefts. What we ask of all of you is just please, we're still pushing our Lock It, Hide It, Keep It campaign. Just as a reminder, when you guys are out shopping, or if you're out and about, please don't leave valuables inside your vehicle. We're still getting a lot of folks are just leaving property inside their vehicles, laptop computers and whatnot, and these items are being stolen. Real quick, with regards to petty theft, what we're seeing is that when folks are out shopping, what we're asking is just please pay attention and hang on to your valuables. A lot of people are setting their property down and actually turning their back on the property and getting involved in something else, and when they turn back around, lo and behold, the property is now missing. So what we ask for all of you once again is just please pay attention to your surroundings. If you see something, don't be afraid to report it and let us know what's going on. And if anybody has any questions for me, I'll be standing off to the side over here. Thank you very much.
I lost it once.
Thank you, Marshall. And then the deputies that are here, please come up because you're next. Marshall has some very interesting news about an event that happened yesterday.
Thank you, Richard. We had a hearing before the hearing officer on Il Villaggio Toscano, the large proposed apartment development just north of the gallery on Sepulveda. About 30 to 35 people showed up to oppose the project. Most of the pro-project people were Chamber of Commerce supporters and representatives of the developer. Many people spoke eloquently. Particular thanks goes out to Bob Anderson, Jeff Maria Calvon, Lisa Petras, Terry Silver, Eric Cohn, me, and others. Jonathan Brand the councilman's land use deputy for this area, spoke on behalf of the councilman supporting the SOHA position. He said that the project should be reduced by removing the 7th and 8th floors to lower the height to the specific plan, and the density would go down by 101 units to be closer to that required by the specific plan. This is a big deal. We usually, when the councilman supports a position, the city council follows his recommendation, but not always. So the game's not over, but was a big seismic shift yesterday. So we're happy about that.
Thank you. We are our deputies, Carolyn, Tamara. Come on up here. Okay, quick update.
Yeah, while they're coming up, we are on a tight schedule, ladies. We're often critical of our city council, but today they did something great. They voted unanimously to pass a resolution urging the FDA not to approve Frankenstein or Frankensalmon, the GMO salmon that is so dangerous. The goal is that our city's vote is to express an outcry to the FDA about the GMO salmon. I'm really grateful to City Council for standing up. Thank you.
Okay, quick updates, Myra.
I'm Tor Gallitson. I'm the Deputy City Attorney. I'm the Neighborhood Prosecutor for Sherman Oaks. Most of what I'm working on in Sherman Oaks right now, again, has to do with these vacant houses with squatters in them or other strange people who we can't seem to get out. Frequently, what we've seen lately have been, as the owner is leaving the property, they rent it for some cash to some people, and then the owner disappears, and the bank is stuck with these people who are now living in it. We've had people, cooking meth in the home, shooting squirrels in the backyard, real exciting things here in Sherman Oaks. So we're still trying to go through these kind of one by one. They're incredibly time consuming. The other thing that I'm working on is we're getting a whole bunch of complaints on Ventura Boulevard of businesses that are like turning themselves into nightclubs without permits, or who are occupying the sidewalk without permits, doing stuff like that. So I filed a case against basically a nightclub that popped up with no permits. That's in court next week. And other than that, we're just trying to kind of pick these off one by one. So keep those calls and letters coming. Thanks.
Thank you. Next is Carolyn Ramsey, who's Chief of Staff for our Councilman Tom LaBonge, who has an update and an announcement on change of personnel. And what I want to know is, does this new person give to the public his cell number? Is he that brave?
What do you mean by cell number? As in cell phone? Oh!
Thank you, Richard. Again, I'm so impressed by what SOHA does in Sherman Oaks and brings all of you together every month. Thank you. And helps me with the microphone. And I appreciate that very much. First of all, I want to introduce Tommy Newman, who is the new deputy for Sherman Oaks, north of the 101. And Tommy is a former intern in our office, and he came back after he graduated from law school and passed the California bar, and we're really happy to have him. He's really smart, has a good sense of humor, and is really excited about working in Sherman Oaks. So Tommy, whose cell phone number is on his business card, is happy to be here with you. And if anybody who lives north of the 101, ask him for his card and keep him busy, please. I want to tell you a couple of other things very, very quickly. The council member wants to plant the Sherman Oak in Sherman Oaks. And Buckley School contacted us. They have a heritage oak that they're going to have to move as part of their construction project. And so we're talking to them about making that, putting that on a public space and making that the Sherman Oak of Sherman Oaks. The council member had just an initiative of his to have vehicles impounded that were involved in crimes like prostitution or illegal dumping, that they can be impounded immediately, and that was approved by the City Council this week. And lastly, I hope you'll all go out to Van Nuys Sherman Oaks Park and try out the new fitness equipment there. Thank you, Howard Tolles, for telling us how popular it has been. It's beautiful new outdoor fitness equipment so that you can work out in the outdoors. It's an easy, fun workout, and it's free. So thank you so much.
Okay, Tommy, we're not gonna let you hide behind, you gotta get your business card to get your cell number. You're gonna give to everyone your cell number because you're looking for work, because you're new to the office. So what is your cell number?
Let me get it out, since it's that new.
Everybody's gonna write this down right now, right? And start calling me immediately. Let's see, it is on the back. 323-829-0877. I feel like my phone's gonna start ringing immediately. I hope to meet all of you and I look forward to working for you. Thank you.
Thank you, and we look forward to having you here at all our meetings. Carolyn, why isn't Jonathan Brand here? He promised us that he would be here at all of our meetings.
Richard?
You know why?
Well, he was at the hearing.
No?
It's his anniversary.
Okay, tell him.
It's his third wedding anniversary, and he said he wants to see his fourth wedding anniversary, so he couldn't come tonight. He was really sorry not to see all of you, but he did testify yesterday on the Via Toscana project, and thank you, Bob, for writing such nice things about what he said at the hearing. But I also want to introduce Joe Brisson from the Department of Water and Power, who's going to talk briefly about the Coldwater Canyon project.
I'll promise I'll make this brief. My name is Joe Brisson with LADWP. I'm with LADWP, and we're the guys doing the work on Coldwater Canyon, and I want to brief you on what's coming. Starting on March 9th, we're going to be restriping Ventura, the intersection of Ventura and Coldwater, and also be some limits on left-hand turns there. But starting on March 23rd, we're going to be closing Coldwater down between the hours of 8:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, and on Saturdays, 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. We're going to work 6 days a week. We're not working Good Friday. And off hours, we're going to have one lane open northbound and one lane open southbound, so you can still get through on the off hours. The reason we're doing this is we're nearing the end of that segment. We have to make 3 connections simultaneously, and the road is so narrow we can't do that safely. And that's to take out some of that old 1914 pipe that burst a couple of years ago, if you can recall. You're going to see a lot more press on this in the future. We promise we'll come back next month to give you an in-depth briefing. And we have flyers over there on the table with all the information. And I want to thank you for your time. And I'll be over on the side if you need me.
If you have any questions, you can see them inside. Next month, there'll be representatives from the DWP here during the social hour, which will actually be an hour. And they'll be giving an update as to what's going to happen, what the options are, and the disaster that is coming. With that, I think that we can bring up the councilman. Right on time. Where is the councilman? Okay. Have a seat. Have a seat. Okay. Our speaker this evening is Councilman Mitch Englander, who represents the Northwest Valley. Was elected last July of last year. To replace Greg Smith, who was on the council. And how long did you work for Councilman Smith?
Chief of Staff for 8 years.
Chief of Staff for 8 years. Okay, he's here for a couple reasons. Number one, he is concerned about the condition of the roads in LA, which stink. Okay, and you're going to talk about what can be done to do something. I mean, why is Burbank streets or San Fernando streets or any of the adjacent areas so much better than Los Angeles? Also, many areas in the city are having problems with group housing, and the city is trying to regulate them more so they don't become a public nuisance to the neighborhoods. And these are group houses in single-family neighborhoods. So Mitch will discuss that as well. Also, we want to hold him hostage here because he is a member of the planning committee of the city council. So any project that comes from Sherman Oaks that involves variances or zone changes comes up to him. So we want to make sure that he is familiar with the residents of Sherman Oaks and vice versa. And I've asked him to kind of give us some of his background. To most people, he's a person, you may have read a quote in the newspaper or seen him on television, but who is Mitch Englander? Where did you grow up? Tell us about your family. So we can have some understanding of what your roots are and why it's important to us, your background. With that, Councilman Mitch Englander.
Thank you very much. Can you all hear me? I don't want to yell, but it's really hard to hear back there as well, because I was back there earlier. So I want to make sure that you can hear me. Okay. So if you can't hear me, raise your hand. Okay. So it was mentioned before I talk about my background. Yes. I can hear you now. You can hear me now? Before I do talk loud, because I do like the people in the back to hear me, that it was mentioned before I came up here that the city council actually wasn't my motion, but voted to urge the federal government to stop manufacturing synthetic salmon. So I just wanted to make sure that gefilte fish was not included in that. So we're all, but anyway. Is this thing on? Okay. With that, I was actually born and raised here in the San Fernando Valley. I'm a native. I was actually born and raised in my district that I live in, which I know is unique to Los Angeles as well. But I was born in Encino, but my folks at that point lived in what was then Canoga Park, which is now West Hills. And so I represent the Northwest San Fernando Valley. That's Northridge, Granada Hills, West Hills, Porter Ranch, Sherwood Forest. If anybody's heard of Sherwood Forest, it's actually a real community here in my district. And I am proud to say that this year I'm celebrating my 20th wedding anniversary with my wife, who is here, by the way. Jane, I'm going to call you out. Stand up for 1 second. She surprised me and showed up here tonight. That's how I get to see my wife, when she knows what my calendar is and just shows up at speaking events. And we have two beautiful and wonderful children, 17 years old and 13 years old, two girls. And we're very, very blessed to have two wonderful children. Born and raised here in the Valley to a single mom who worked 3 jobs, which many families are, again, doing today. And my mom, God bless her, and God rest her soul, really struggled here in the San Fernando Valley to raise 3 kids. And soon after I moved away to go to college and start my own company, in fact, and moved to Arizona, for a couple years my mom got really ill. And I came back here to take care of her, and then she passed away. And she was a single mom that had struggled here in the Valley, where at a very young age, we lost our house to foreclosure, which a lot of families are doing so today as well. And we moved in with an uncle of mine who really took me under his wing and taught me a lot about what it is to care for other people. And he was just a phenomenal human being with a big heart that loved taking care of others. And was an entrepreneur, had his own company, taught me a lot about running a company, but more about how to care about the employees, care for employees, and how to treat customers with customer service, which is something I think the city needs to learn a little more about. And later in life, he was leaving a job site, and 4 teenagers attempted to rob him. and he got scared and he ran away, and they shot him in the back. And unfortunately, he didn't make it. And from there on out, it was that day that changed my life forever. It was that day that, not only from what happened to him, but my sister, who, and I know some of you have heard my life story before, but the same day that my uncle was killed, my sister was a severe asthmatic and had an asthma attack and was rushed to the hospital. And unfortunately, the hospital was full, and they locked the doors, which they're not allowed to do, but they did. And they couldn't get to her in time, and that same night that my uncle was killed, she went into a coma. And when she came out of the coma, for 3 months she was in a coma. She had what was called myoclonus, which is like Parkinson's disease. She was 30 years old, she was a school teacher, and she could never work again. And my wife, God bless her, her and I took care of my sister for 10 years before she passed away. And then we realized it was something we wanted to do with our lives, to make this community a better place. This was a valley and a community that came together to help raise me. This is a place that I've chosen to raise my own family and wanted to give back. So I became a police officer, reserve LAPD officer. I got involved in, and I sit with several people here that I've known for many years, in fact, on the board of hospitals. I've gotten involved in expanding hospitals, all the things that have affected me in life and things that I care about. And so I decided to run for city council, and here I am today. Not asking you for a vote for anything, I'm not running for anything, but I am talking about some ideas that I wanted to share with you as well. And one of the things that I hold very dear is the fiduciary responsibility that we've got as council members and elected officials entrusted with your tax dollars. The same tax dollars that time and time again, far too often, the city or the state or the federal government continues to take more of and provides less service in return. And so I've actually, since I've been on the council for about 2 years now, going on 2 years, I have voted against every single tax increase, every DWP rate adjustment. I've worked really hard to ensure that those services are provided to you at a much more efficient and cost-beneficial manner. And so that's been my focus, that I don't think we can tax our way to prosperity. I don't think we've really cleaned our own house before we can go back to the voters to ask for more money. I think there's a lot of other things we can do as a city. But what I'm here to do today to talk to you about is an actual tax increase. And it's not something that I'm actually even convinced of yet myself, but I'm presenting it and promoting it, but it's nothing that's on the ballot. It's just an idea and a concept that I've partnered with a new council member, Joe Buscaino, who is out of San Pedro, another LAPD officer. And we got together and said, we're the newest council members here in Los Angeles. We've inherited a nightmare of 28,000 lane miles. Those are the streets in the city of Los Angeles, of which 32% are in failed condition, or in D or F condition. We all know how bad the streets are in LA. In fact, #1 in the country of failed streets in the city. We're $3 billion behind in fixing our roads. $3 billion. Now, what does that all mean to us? That's a 60-year backlog, by the way. If we kept on the same cycle we're on now, and only if we were funded the same way we are now, it would take 60 years to catch up on that backlog. Now, the funding mechanisms keep going down, and one of the first questions we get is, well, then where's our taxpayer dollars going? Why haven't the streets been maintained and funded? And it's a very good question, to which deserves a very good answer. And the history is that from 1950 to 1990, the streets were not funded for replacement. They were simple maintenance and pothole repair. They weren't replacing streets for many, many different reasons, but they didn't do it. They failed to do it. And so now we've inherited this 60-year and growing backlog of $3 billion. So I'll walk you through that a little bit. You have an A, B, C, D, and F streets. You have 5 different grades of streets. Most of the streets in the city, a little more than half of them, are in A, B, or C condition. Those streets get resurfaced, or it's really a slurry seal. It's not a surface or a reconstruction, but a slurry seal on a cycle of 7 years. So when you call your council member and you say, why is it you're paving the same street you just did 5 years ago, but you haven't done mine in 30 years. Has anybody made that assessment? Have you seen where they're fixing the same street but not another street? Well, that's because it's cheaper, actually, to re-slurry, just put a top coat down on streets that are in A or B condition. They're not failed yet. They haven't fallen into the low C category or the D or F category. Once they have become a failed or a D street, you can't slurry them anymore. A slurry seal costs about $25,000 a mile. Now a slurry seal, what you do is they come in every cycle, 5 to 7 years, and they slurry seal it. They're in and out in a few days, and then they come by and they restripe it. That's a slurry seal. It's a top coat. And it stretches the life of that street for about 20 or 30 years. So it greatly enhances the life of that street. Once a street falls into a D or F condition street and they can no longer slurry, then they've got to rebuild that street. That's where you get into a resurface or a reconstruction. A resurface is when they pull off all the top coat of asphalt, or in some cases concrete, because we still have some concrete streets here in the city of Los Angeles. And that costs $325,000 a mile, once it falls into a D category, okay? $325,000 a mile. Then once it falls into a failed street, which is subsurface, which you have to rip out the entire street, repack the dirt, relay the foundation, put in all new systems, that is $650,000 a mile. So you've gone from $25,000 a mile for maintenance to $325,000 for resurfacing to $650,000 a mile for reconstruction. Now the ones that are in the resurface reconstruction, I know this is a lot of detail, but I get really excited about this stuff. Because we're actually paying for this whether we pay for it or not. I'll explain that in a minute. But the ones that are in the D or F category are 8,700 miles of failed streets in the city. So out of the 28,000 miles, lane miles, which by the way, if you drove 28,000 lane miles, that's from here to Paris, France, and back. So it's a lot of infrastructure here in the city of Los Angeles. 8,700 miles are failed streets, are less than fair condition. That 8,700 miles, if you take the entire city of Oakland 3 times, that's how many failed streets we have in the city of Los Angeles. So because it wasn't maintained from 1950 to 1990, in the year 2000, everything changed. In 1995, the city brought in a new system called micropaver. And under micropaver, they actually go out and they measure every single street citywide. Every single street, they know what's A, B, C, D, or F. We know in everybody's community what the condition of your street is. And that's how they figure out now which streets to fund. So since the year 2005, the city's actually fully funded 100% of the street maintenance and all streets that are in fair condition and above for the slurry program. So they have enough money to maintain the streets, but they don't have the money to fix the backlog. Now here's the other problem, and here's the question that I often get is, well, what about the money we've been paying into fix the streets all these years? Well, it really comes from 3 sources. The primary source is gas tax. There's a tax on every gallon of gasoline everywhere in the country. And that gas tax, which was passed about 40 years ago, is not on the price per gallon. It's actually on the gallon itself. It's about 36 cents per gallon of gasoline. Not the sales tax or the tax that's supposed to go back into fixing streets that was dedicated for that purpose. Well, the federal government, they come in and they take about half of it right off the top. It leaves about 18 cents. Then the state comes in and the county comes in. The city of Los Angeles gets about 3 cents of that 30 cents. That hasn't changed in 40 years, but let me tell you what has. People are getting better gas mileage than they did 30 and 40 years ago. Now what does that mean? So for every gallon of gas that you put in your vehicle, where you used to get 8 to 10, if you remember, miles per gallon, you're now getting 30, 40, And for those of you who are carpooling, you're not even paying into the system, so shame on you if you're carpooling. No, I'm kidding. But if you think about all the hybrids and the electric, so because of that, we have many more cars on the road today than we did 20 and 30 years ago. There's no question. But because they're getting more gas mileage, which is a good thing for the environment and for a lot of other reasons, they're paying less into fixing the street. So that's been a depleting revenue stream for 30 years. That keeps getting smaller and smaller as cars become more efficient and there's more people driving. And it's never changed. That formula has not changed in 40 years. So we get about 3 cents per gallon. Now with that, we also get ARA funds, if you remember the stimulation dollars that we got out of the White House, which was those shovel-ready projects, if you remember that. ARA funds are now gone. That was a short-term fix for the economy, and those funds actually went into repaving, not the slurry program, but repaving about 32 miles a year. My wife is sneaking out. You can't sneak out, honey. Oh, she's going to pick up our daughter. It's nice to see you. All right. I gotta take it when I can. The secret to a happy life is a happy wife. All right. So with that, ARA funds are now gone. The other funds we used to get, I mentioned there were 3, were Prop 1B funds. Prop 1B funds, that the voters passed, was a $20 billion general obligation bond in the state of California. $20 billion, which by the way is now paid off and gone. And this year is the last year for Prop 1B funds. Of the $20 billion, $2 billion, so $18 billion went to the state of California. $2 billion went to everybody else in California. That's every city, county, and town to divide up. That $20 billion, our net out of that to the city of Los Angeles over the 4-year cycle was about $140 million. Now we're near the $3 billion in our backlog, and that's what paid to fix those 32 miles of reconstructed streets that I talked about that have been done for the last 4 years. So with that, ARA funds are gone, our gas taxes are being depleted, and Prop 1B funds are gone. So what are we going to do? So we're looking at this. The question really becomes is, what if we do nothing? It's an option. We can keep kicking the can down the road. Well, there was a study that came out 20 years ago to fix the backlog in the streets. 20 years ago by the City of Los Angeles Department of Transportation. And the study said that it would cost $700